Welcome into the NFL opening line report for week number 13. We are hitting the Thursday nighter. We got the Sunday games, Monday nighter as well, guys. I am Drew Martin, and as always, joined by Teddy Covers, red hot Teddy Covers. Teddy, happy Monday morning to you, man. Think you're feeling good off the profitable weekend?
80% NFL run, 22-5 all sports run. We made money for myself and my clients all weekend, 8-1 weekend. So we'll see if we can keep it rolling. But it's been a good couple of weeks after what was a difficult, I had a difficult time through October and into November. But thankfully, things have turned as they do in this business. Crazy weekend for me. I had my mom got sick, my wife got sick. Was running around all over the place, so I didn't even get my NFL write-ups done this past weekend, which I felt awful about. That doesn't happen very often, but sometimes life happens, and that's important to note. Sometimes life happens. When life happens, deal with life. It's more important than sports betting. That said, sports betting is pretty important too. Great weekend for the favorites in the NFL this past weekend. 12-3 against the spread, and I read this last night. I don't know if it's true. I haven't independently verified it, but the most favorites to ever cover an NFL weekend is 13. So the Vikings have a chance to tie that record if they're able to cash against Chicago on Monday Night Football.
All right, a little bit off of the favorite weekend here, guys. And like we said in the intro, hitting the Thursday nighter up first, and it's the Seattle Seahawks and the Dallas Cowboys here, Teddy. November 30th. Last game in November. We got 46 being the total. We're seeing the Cowboys mostly -8.5. There is a -9 out there. There's also a -8 out there as we're talking on Monday, Teddy. Seahawks at Cowboys Thursday night on Amazon.
Yeah, and with all of these games, I'm going to give you 4 different sets of point spreads. All right, we have the look-ahead line, a bettable line from last week. I used the Westgate Superbook numbers. They tend to be, I think they're as accurate as anyone when it comes to look-ahead lines. That's why I use them. I'll give you my power rating number for every game. And the power rating number does not factor in situations. It's just team A, team B, home field. It does factor in injuries. It doesn't factor in situations. So that's worth noting. I'm going to talk about where the lines opened last night and where they're moving today. If there's urgency, we'll give you an emergency betting alert. Say, do get involved right now. And even though I was dead wrong, I still can't. I was dead wrong last week with the Patriots-Giants emergency betting alert, where I'm like, the money has to come for the Giants. The money has to come for the Giants. And it didn't, 3.5. New England got bet up to freaking 4.5 in that game. Like, this is a dumb line. If you had the Giants, even with the bad number at 3.5 that I recommended last week, it's still cashed. Seattle and Dallas. Look ahead line. Dallas -7. 46.5. My powering number 8.5. The markets opened 7.5 or 8 last night, total of 46. And as you mentioned, nothing but Dallas money so far. We're seeing 8, 8.5, even 9s out there for the Cowboys right now. I'm not convinced it gets a whole lot higher than this. This is not a must run to the window to bet. If you like the Dallas side, you've already lost the best of the number. That said, I don't see it skyrocketing through the roof right now. Seattle's having some problems right now. Geno versus a good defense has not been pretty. And he faced a good defense this past week against San Francisco. He took 6 sacks. He averaged 4 yards per pass. He had 1 completion of longer than 21 yards. This is a series. We talk about the Jets' offensive woes. Seattle has 3 offensive touchdowns in their last 4 games combined. Geno Smith after the game. It's been a tough stretch for us, but I believe that things will turn around. Their next 3 games, Dallas, San Fran, Philly. Good luck with that. And, of course, they're down 3 scores by halftime. Their first 5 possessions gave a total of 15 yards. They couldn't get out of their own way early on. Dallas, the longest home winning streak in 42 years. They've won 13. They tied a 55-year-old franchise record, 7 wins by at least 20 points so far this season. They still have more than a month to go. Defense gave up more than 200 yards for the first time in 3 games, but this is an elite D, and they stopped watching when they had to. All right. 10 receivers caught passes. Dak didn't get sacked. The D had 4 sacks. It certainly feels like the type of game where Dallas deserves to be a significant favorite. And they've done what they needed to do. They lost to the Eagles on November 5th. Now they've got a brutal stretch coming up. Seahawks, Eagles, Dolphins, Bills, Lions. They've been beating the weak. What's Seattle right now? They're certainly not the strong. I'll leave it at that.
Like the breakdown there, Teddy. Yeah, Dallas. Like that stat. 7 wins by 20 points already this season. Seattle playing the Thursday nighter on the road. However, do note it is not a short week because they did play on Thanksgiving night, so they get the kind of full week preparation time anyway. So we got a Sunday slate coming up here, guys, and we are going down in rotation order. 451, 452 using the WagerTalk live odds screen. 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here. LA Chargers, New England Patriots, Teddy. We're seeing Chargers minus 6-point road favorites. 40.5 being the total, making the cross-country flight and laying near a touchdown. What are we thinking with the Bolts and the Pats?
Well, the Pats took money last week. They're not taking money this week for whatever reason. Surprise, surprise. Look ahead line here. Chargers minus 4.5, total 42.5. My powering number, and I've got the Patriots ranked among the 3 weakest teams in the NFL. You have to at this stage. My powering number still has LA only minus 5. Markets open. There were 5.5s last night, 41.5. We're looking at 6 and 40.5 this morning. Money showing for the under between the Chargers and the Patriots. I mean, I don't know what Belichick does now. I really don't. You know, Mac Jones, you watched him in the first half yesterday, and his confidence is shot. You cannot put him out there. In his 3 first-half turnovers, he looked the part of a failed young quarterback ready to be a backup for the rest of his career. And they got a little spark from Bailey Zappi, but Zappi did what he's done every single time. You know, he's had 15 times to show what he can do as a backup. And he gives him a little spark, and then he throws a stupid interception. You know, it's like the same movie over and over again, you know. They outrushed the Giants almost 3-1. They had 147 yards on the ground. They sacked Tommy DeVito 6 times. It was a dominant defensive showing. They held the Giants to 10 first downs, 4.4 yards per play. They had only 2 penalties. You got to win games like that. And, of course, the missed field goal, the 35-yard field goal, brutal. You know, and, of course, Belichick, worth noting what they did. The Pats got a first down at the Giants' 22 with a minute to play. They didn't take a shot at the end zone. They played for overtime, and that's what you get. You know, Belichick, we missed an opportunity at the end of the game to put it in overtime. Just not good enough. We turned the ball over too many times. The markets have crashed on this team. Though Chargers are a hard team to back right now. You know, they're a team that's finding ways to lose. Early start game for a West Coast team traveling east. And I don't know, they're a whole lot more confident than New England is right now. I know I can't lay it. It's an easy game for me to pass.
All right, top of the card here on Sunday. We head down 453, 454, also 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, as we only have actually 4 in this time slot. That's the lowest of the season. -4, that is the Detroit Lions as the road favorite. 45.5 being the total. And I'm seeing you shake your head there, Teddy. You remember a time where we had less than 4 1 o'clock Eastern time slot kicks?
There's 7 1 o'clock Eastern times clicks. They just did some time changes on this stuff, so it's messed
nice
around.
Catch.
Yeah.
My bad, man.
Yeah. They're never going to have 4 1 o'clock Eastern games. There's always the big slate, and then the little slate, and then the Sunday night and the Monday night. Let's give me a shout out to Richie Brooklyn, who keeps sending me stuff on Sunday night saying use this in the opening line report as an emergency betting alert. Said last night the Lions opened 3.5. Said that's not going to be there. Bet it now. He was right. Lions up to 4. This morning there was even a 4.5 out there. Total 45.5, and maybe the markets do crash on the Saints this week. I don't blame them if they do. I bet against the Saints yesterday, and I have no hesitation betting against them in this matchup either, especially with Detroit coming off of a loss, a poorly played loss. You know, the defense had no sacks. The offense punted only twice, but you know, Goff for the second straight game had 3 turnovers. He threw 3 interceptions against Chicago last week, and then he had 3 fumbles against the Packers. They went 1 of 5 on 4 times. The fake punt was the one that, you know, cost them the game as much as anything. You know, from their own 23 in the third quarter, down by 9. Dan Campbell after the game, it was a bad call. I shouldn't have done that to those guys. Campbell again. I didn't have my guys ready to go. Bottom line, Detroit's been pretty good off a loss this season, off a poorly played loss. Might be something worth paying attention to. Although the Lions' offensive line has been a strength all year. They're starting to get injuries right now. Jonah Jackson hurt. Halupala Vitae hurt on injured reserve. And the offensive line kind of got pushed around a little bit by Green Bay. Might have been the short week. but that could be a red flag for Detroit moving forward. For the Saints, I mean, the injuries are a real problem for New Orleans. Chris Olave was unstoppable in the first half against Atlanta, then he got hurt. Raheem Shaheed left the field. Michael Thomas was placed on injured reserve. The tight end, Juwan Johnson, the wide receiver, Lynn Bowden, and the starting center, Eric McCoy, also left the game with injuries yesterday. Don't know yet how serious any of those are, but that's a lot of skill position talent. Oh, and the defense allowed 228 yards on the ground. They were just gashed by Atlanta's running game. Not necessarily a good good sign moving forward against Detroit. Derek Carr continues to show a precious lack of chemistry with his teammates. 0 for 5 in the red zone, 5 field goals. And of course, now they got 3 at home in a row, a chance to make some noise in an NFC South Division isn't very good. We'll have to pull the upset here to do it. If they pull the upset, they're going to have to play a whole lot better than they have pretty much in any game for the better part of the last 2 months.
455, 456 up next. Atlanta Falcons, New York Jets, 1 o'clock Eastern kick here. And we are kind of seeing a little bit of a split line here, a Vegas offshore divide, if you will. Most of the Vegas books have Atlanta -3. Offshore's more 2.5 with juice. 34 being the total. Falcons at Jets from MetLife, Teddy.
I need to ask you an honest question, Drew. Did you bet the Jets this week?
I did not.
You bet the Jets this week. Exactly. Do you know anyone that bet the Jets this week?
Let me think. No, not off the top of my head. Anyway.
Exactly. Which is telling us, Dan, it's time for an emergency betting alert. Look ahead line here. Falcons -2.5, 35.5. My powering number is 2.5. The market's open 2.5, and yet you know which way they're going because nobody's betting the Jets right now. This line's going to 3. If you want Atlanta, get a 2.5 right now. I'm not convinced they'll be there in 24 hours. I've been wrong before, but nobody is betting the Jets right now. Tim Boyle is no better than Zach Wilson. We knew that before kickoff. What do you take? 7 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2.9 yards per pass attempts. The Jets had 8 handoffs and 45 pass dropbacks in a game plan that is baffling to me. They won the turnover battle 3-2. The defense had a pick 6, and yet they were never in the game. They lost by 3 touchdowns. 8th different starting offensive line combo for the Jets in 11 games. Basically, it was a left guard, Laken Tomlinson, and a bunch of backups and rookies. This is a Jets team, 4-3 start. They're 0-4 since, and they're losing those games. The Raiders was close, 16-12. Everything else is a blowout, 27-6, 32-6, 34-13. Teams are getting the Jets, punching them while they're down. The Jets defense is running out of gas. Meanwhile, the Falcons, that was a huge win for them. I could come up with 100 quotes from Atlanta talking about how important that win was for them. And it was. It was the division. Their season's on the line. They're coming off the bye. They just lost 3 straight heartbreakers. Quote, Arthur Smith, that was encouraging. That's where we need to be to close out games. And, of course, they're able to run the football down New Orleans' throat. Worth noting, Falcons offensive coordinator Dave Ragone moved to the press box instead of working from the sideline. That was something they talked about doing, changing in the bye week, and it clearly worked well within a bird's eye view as opposed to a sideline view. And, of course, the defense for Atlanta. Big plays galore yesterday, and they held the Saints without a touchdown in 5 red zone attempts. So the money's coming for the Falcons here. It's already shown. I would not expect to see any buyback on the Jets until it gets to 3. So you see a 2.5 out there, and there's still plenty out there for Atlanta right now. Bet that one sooner rather than later.
One emergency betting alert in the books. We'll see if we get another one from TC here, guys, as we move down the list. 1 o'clock Eastern kick, 457, 458, Arizona Cardinals, Pittsburgh Steelers, Teddy. We are seeing the Steelers mostly 5 in the hook. There is a -5 flat out there. 40 being the total. Cardinals at Steelers from the Steel City, Teddy.
Look ahead line, Pittsburgh -3.5. So we've seen a pretty big adjustment. Total 39. My powering number is Pittsburgh 5.5. The market's opened 6 last night. They moved down to 5.5 this morning. Total basically hasn't budged off of 40. There is a couple of 39.5s out there, but not many. Arizona's now lost 8 of their last 9. It's not a team that has any urgency to win this year. They came into the season saying this is a rebuilding season. first time head coach, and Jonathan Gannon just learning learning the ropes. So there's no urgency for Arizona. That said, they stunk up pretty bad yesterday. There was a no show after about the first quarter. Jonathan Gannon, not good enough, obviously, today. We didn't match their level of effort or enthusiasm throughout the game. That falls solely on me. When you get beat like that, you got to take a good hard look at how we're setting up the week, because it really wasn't competitive in my mind. Of course, they give up 228 rushing yards. This is not a good Arizona defense by any stretch of the imagination. And when Kyler Murray isn't in sync with his teammates, something that happened a lot last year, particularly at home, a team that had virtually no home field edge, maybe even a negative home field edge at times in recent seasons. And we saw that again yesterday. So certainly red flags all around Arizona. The question is, the markets want to lay a price with the Steelers, and that is a big question. Obviously, Matt Canada gets dumped. Running backs coach Eddie Faulkner ran the offense on an interim basis. Quarterback coach Mike Sullivan called plays. And guess what? Everyone's talking about it. Pittsburgh outgaining their opponent for the first time all year. Pickett looked more comfortable. Pat Freiermuth had a huge game. Najee Harris on 99 yards on the ground. The Steelers, 421 yards, snapping a streak of 58 games without gaining 400 yards. Mike Tomlin. I'm not going to paint with a broad brush and act like Eureka. We did what we needed to win today, and we'll keep pushing. That's our job. I'm happy we won. We spread the ball around, changed some things up schematically. They did have a season-high 6 explosive plays, gains of at least 20 yards on Sunday. The betting markets are saying not so fast with Pittsburgh just yet. And they certainly, for the level of offensive success they had in the game, the scoreboard didn't show it. They finished with 16 points in that contest. The red zone execution still isn't there for the Steelers. And that is certainly a concern here, where you have to win this game by 6 points or more in order to cover. But when you look at the potential trajectories of these two teams down the stretch, Pittsburgh's going somewhere. Arizona, not so much. Although, like I said, there has been a little bit of money coming for the Arizona Cardinals in early betting action. The markets just don't like Pittsburgh this year.
Sure, Teddy. And yeah, I took the bait on the Cardinals yesterday, paid the price. So I'm likely not going to be on the Cardinals anyway, heading on the road this week, guys, as we move down the list to the game that threw me off here, Teddy, with the time change, I'm guessing, because it's 459-460, the rotation number. However, it is a 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kick. We're talking the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Bucks next game up. Bucks -5.5 at most shops. Actually, -5s are available as well. 37 being the total. Panthers at Bucks from Raymond James, Teddy.
Yeah, so we still have buys. We have 6 teams on bye this week, and then 2 more on bye in week 14, although it's very interesting to note what the league did with the week 14 bye teams. There were 2 teams that were expected to be bottom feeders and have been bottom feeders. So the league are like, yeah, you guys can have a bye when it doesn't even matter for your season anymore. But there are 6 teams this week: Buffalo, Chicago, Las Vegas, Minnesota, the Giants, and Baltimore. So there are good teams in the mix with buys for, week 13. Boy, I'm disappointed that Carolina fired Frank Reich today. The quotes coming in after the game yesterday were as bet against as you find. And I'm like, I would really like to fade Carolina right now. Look ahead line here: Tampa Bay -5.5, 39.5. My powering number, Tampa Bay -7.5. Although that is a pre-Reich being fired power rating, that probably should go down. 6 was the opener last night, total of 38.5. We've seen nothing but under money for this one, down to 5.5 at most books, 5 at some others. Not surprised, the new coach bump. The total's been getting bet down. 37, the prevailing number. I do not anticipate this total getting bet down much further. Look, Carolina's offense has been broken. All right. They gained 3.9 yards per play again yesterday. Adam Thielen was double-teamed the whole game, and the passing game doesn't work. All right. The starting guards, Chandler Zavala and Cade Mays, both got hurt during the game. So it's an offensive line now that is dealing with all kinds of issues. Right. His quote after the game: "You think someone's going to magically fix everything? No." Of course, it's a team that's averaged 12 points a game over their last 5. Bryce Young. We all feel it. Obviously, it's difficult. We all don't feel great. We just lean on each other in these moments. That's all we can do. I haven't seen quotes this morning, but I'm interested to read some Carolina quotes this morning with Frank Wright getting the axe. As for the Bucs, look, the D starting to crack. This is a team. Remember that 3-1 start where we're like, maybe Tampa Bay's going to be decent this year.
Sure.
They're finding ways to lose. They didn't allow more than 25 points in any of their first 7 games. Now they've allowed 27 plus 3 times their last 4, all losses. About 4 rushing TDs allowed all year before Sunday. About 3 yesterday against the Colts. Baker Mayfield banged up big time. Okay. After the game, we could barely walk to the podium. Todd Bowles, he finished out the rest of the game, so I have to wait to see checked out, see how bad it is after the game. Mayfield, adrenaline is a hell of a drug, talking about how he finished the contest. But obviously, when you can't walk to the podium after the game, it's a big concern for a matchup the following week. And Carolina's defense continues to fight. Todd Bowles, we're 1 game out of first place, but the way we're playing, it's got to be turned around. It feels like we're 10 games out, and we're 1 game out, but we got to play better and understand that as a unit. Mayfield, until everybody gets pissed off enough to get it fixed, there will be no changes. I know where I'm going to head at the end of this week. I'll get my job fixed and try to drag as many people along as well. Those are not bet on quotes either. Not even maybe. I can understand with the new coach bump, maybe Carolina gets whatever. I can't lay 5, 5.5, 6 with Tampa right now. And those quotes tell us not to lay 5. That's a Baker Mayfield quote saying, I'm trying to drag as many people along as I can as well. That's not, we're all coming together as a team. Dig it now. That's not a bet on quote. It really isn't.
Like the breakdown there, Teddy. Guys, feel free to comment below any questions on today's show on the YouTube channel. We'll answer them throughout the week, being there typing away, and also can answer them on next week's show. We do have a couple questions from last week's show we'll get to. Teddy, I already see some people in the live chat chiming in. Just one quick one for you. You mentioned the new coach bump. You talked about you wish maybe they didn't fire him. Is the new coach in the NFL usually a bet-on situation for you, or is it kind of game-to-game, situation to situation? How do you kind of handicap that?
So unless it's week 17, week 18, it tends to be bet on or pass for a new coach bump. Yes, okay. It's something that is worth paying attention to. Absolutely. It's not a factor to ignore. When the coach gets fired, the team can light a fire under their ass, at least for a week, even for a crappy team like Carolina. And I just want to say real quick, last week I only got into the comments once, and I apologize. It was a effed up Thanksgiving weekend. I wasn't able to get back in. This week, I'm sure I'll be in the comments multiple times. So any comments you leave on YouTube, I'll answer every one of them. Got questions, I'll answer every one of them. Drew will be there and there as well. We appreciate all the likes. The thumbs up really help, the follows. And, of course, join the more than 130,000 folks, if you haven't done so already, who have subscribed to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. That's an insane number for me to even consider. But if you haven't joined them, join them now. Tons of quality content on a daily basis, including the NFL opening line report every week during the season.
Yeah, I'll be in there as well, guys, like Teddy said. And feel free to chime in anything. Even the guys like the algo bump, just bump for views type deal. That works. Questions are great. And feel free to rate the mustache as well, as a lot of guys in there doing it last week. I thought that was funny, guys. So feel free to rate away 1 through 10 what you think. Indianapolis, Tennessee, next game up, 461, 462. Back to the 1 o'clock Eastern kicks here, Teddy, 10 a.m. Pacific. -2 pretty much across the board. There is a 2.5 out there. That's the Colts as the road favorite, 43 being the total. Colts at Titans, next game up, Teddy.
Look ahead line was Tennessee -1, total of 40.5. My powering numbers pick them on this ballgame. Although I will say, my number on the Colts has been off the market number by a couple of points for the last couple of games. The markets have Indy rated a little bit higher than I do. And I guess this is going to be the game that determines whether the markets are right on their Indy number or I'm right on my Indy number. And if the Colts win this game at Tennessee, I will adjust my Indy power rating number appropriately there'll be a big adjustment because I've been off on the markets on Indy. As you mentioned, it was 2-42 last night, and we're basically seeing 2-43. Sorry, 2-42.5 last night. And the markets were kind of split early on, 42.5, 43. Now it's pretty much 43s across the board, so there's no emergency betting alert there. It's already been done. Indy's got the easiest remaining schedule in the NFL. They were able to run the football really effectively in yesterday's game, which if you do that against Tennessee, you can beat them. Taylor and Moss combined for 149 yards on the ground. Minshew, I love Minshew because he tries so hard. He's such a gutty player. But, he became the starter against the Jags on October 15th. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions since he got a relationship with Pittman. Pittman have nice chemistry. But I see Indy as a below-average team, Tennessee has only played 4 home games all year. They only had 1 home game their previous 7 weeks prior to yesterday. And guess what? They're 4-0 when playing at Nissan Stadium. They're averaging 25 points a game at home and 11 points a game on the road. They have 4 of their last 6 at home. Yesterday, great first half. Derrick Henry ran for a couple of touchdowns, 76 yards against a tough run defense. But they finished just 2 of 11 on third downs. They were shut out after halftime, 5 drives, 4 punt, 1 kneel down. Those aren't let's lay points type of thing, but you don't have to lay points with them in this one. They do have a couple of rookies now on the offensive line. Skoronski was supposed to be the starter. Jalen Duncan made his first NFL start yesterday. That's a concern. But, Levis has been fine. He's 2-3 as the starter. Like many young quarterbacks, he's going to have his troubles in the highway. But I like the way he's seeing the field. He's making mistakes like young QBs do. But there's hope with Levis in the way that we haven't seen so much for the other young prospects Tennessee's brought to the table. I'm certainly leaning Titans in this game at my initial feel for this AFC South matchup.
All right, heading to our nation's capital up next, 1 o'clock Eastern here, 463-464, Miami Dolphins, Washington Commanders here, Teddy. Fins laying not minus 10 just yet, double digits, but minus 9, actually a lot of minus 9 in the hooks out there, Teddy. It's looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now, 50 being the total. Dolphins laying a number on the road. What are we thinking in D.C.?
Look, it's week 13 of the NFL season. And when you look at the look-ahead lines versus the actual lines this week, you see dramatic moves from week to week. Look-ahead line, Pittsburgh, Arizona, 3.5. We saw 6s this morning. Look-ahead line for Titans were -1. Now they're 2-point dogs. Both teams won yesterday. Look-ahead line here, Miami -7. Total of 49. My powering number was 10. The markets opened 9 last night. Now we're seeing 9/9.5s out there right now. So again, it's a 2.5 point move. Teams we've seen all year long do exactly what they were supposed to do. And still the markets make significant adjustments. Now, we look at Miami. Miami's been beating up on the bad teams all year. Dolphins defense starting to force turnovers. 9 turnovers forced the last 4 games. 14 sacks during that span. Jalen Ramsey has had an impact. But linebacker Jalen Phillips just suffered a torn Achilles. He's going to miss the rest of the year. Mike McDaniel, you don't necessarily replace Jalen Phillips. You can have guys that are fully capable to step up and kind of get the production through different ways. We're fortunate enough to have some depth that, and they do have depth. They also had an injury to a left tackle, Terran Armstead, Pro Bowler. He's, quote, game to game, week to week. Don't know yet if he's going to be able to go. It's worth noting, Tua has 10 interceptions, 11 games. He has a couple of multi-interception games this season, and that has tied his career high. All that said, I don't care if Tua throws picks. He's creating big plays downfield. You will care if Tua throws picks, however, if you're laying 9.5 points. And all of a sudden, things get funky. Look, Washington's defense was it was 20-10 going to the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter got away from them really bad. And then what happens is the overreactions, and Jack Del Rio gets fired after the game. Everyone in Washington is gone at the end of this season. New ownership group, new GM. We all know Rivera's gone. This is if you're taking the Commanders, it's only because there's value on the Commanders. Defense ranks worst in points allowed, 29th in yards allowed. Last year, they were 7th and 3rd in those categories. Okay. They've given up 49, NFL high, 49 pass plays of 20 yards or more. That's the most in the league. And they're playing against the team that has more explosive plays than anyone in the league. All right. Also worth noting, defensive backs coach Brent Wieselmeyer got fired. And now it's Rivera who's going to take over the defensive play calling for the rest of the season. Washington hasn't notched an interception in 6 games or caused a turnover in the last 3. So I guess the defense can only get better in that regard.
Like that, Teddy. Rivera taking over the defensive play call. We get a change there again as handicappers looking for a change and going from that point forward, a great way to win. So watch that with the Commanders, guys. We got 465, 466 up next here, Teddy. Denver at Houston. We are seeing 46 as the total in the Texans, -3.5 across the board off of that big game against the Jags, the loudest that stadium has been in 5 years, according to the announcers yesterday. What are we thinking Broncos at Texans?
So let me start with this. I bet against the Texans yesterday, cashed a winning bet against them, and raised my power rating on Houston after they lost. That was as impressive a showing. The Texans were really impressive yesterday, and they had no business losing that game. All the calls went my way. I got the missed field goals going my way. They should have beaten Jacksonville again. And the poise that C.J. Stroud showed in that game was really impressive. Look ahead line here, -3 and 44.5. Like I said, I raised my powering number on the Texans. My number's 4 for the ball game. Markets open 3 and 45 last night. And I was really hoping to be able to get an emergency betting alert on this, but it's already gone. 3.5's out there right now. Total's been bet up to 46.5. So we've seen Houston money. We've seen over money already. And I believe it. For both of them. Look, the Broncos have now won 5 straight since that 1-5 start. Their first 5-game winning streak since 2015. Russell Wilson, fat and happy. I've never doubted our football team and where we can go. We're starting to learn what it takes to win. Of course, they have 15 takeaways in their last 4 games. That's their best stretch since 1989. Wilson. I think we've capitalized on a lot of those. Yeah, really. This is a team that had only 1 rushing touchdown all season. They had 2 more by halftime against Cleveland, which is a good thing. But at the same time, when you've got 15 takeaways your last 4 games, and you're going to play a team that isn't likely to give it away, and Stroud's not making a whole lot of mistakes right now. By the way, he just passed Justin Herbert, the most passing yards in NFL history by a rookie in his last 11 games. The first rookie in NFL history to go for 300 yards in 4 straight games. The run defense came into the game number 7 in the L. They 7 in the NFL. They shut down Travis Etienne and the Jags running game, held to less than 3 yards per carry. But again, the breaks didn't go their way yesterday. Houston's a bet-on team right now, and the markets are showing us that with their support for the Texans this morning.
Heading to the afternoon kicks up next here. And to Teddy's point earlier in the show, guys, there's only 3 of them this week. 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific kicks. San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles. We get the Niners, -2.5-point road favorites. If you go to the global books, there is a -3 out there. 46.5 being the total. Arguably the 2 best teams in the NFC here, Teddy. 2 first-place teams squaring off. What are we thinking, Niners and Eagles?
So again, Philly won, San Fran won, right? Look ahead line. Eagles, -1.5. Total of 46. Both teams won. And what are we looking at now? Obviously something with San Francisco laying points. My powering numbers are Niners -2. The markets opened 1.5, 46.5 last night. Quickly moved to 2.5, 46.5 today. I'm not going to emergency betting alert because I'm not seeing the 3s out there. And at 3, there's buyback on Philadelphia. So might be 2.5, 20 and all of that. But San Fran, 15 sacks the last 3 games. Purdy throws the pick 6 in the third quarter against Seattle. And then here's the quote from Christian McCaffrey. Ice in his veins. He's such a good player. Makes plays all over the field. Watch how consistent he is back in the huddle. Never too high, never too low. Anytime he's got the ball in his hands, there's a play to be made. He can make it. After throwing the pick six, Purdy leads San Francisco down the field. The game-clinching touchdown. San Fran is my highest power-rated team. And obviously, I got them my numbers, so they should be road favorites here in Philadelphia. Philly's in a tough spot. All right, Jalen Hurts is 26-2. His last 28 regular season starts, I think. That's the number. And he had that miserable first half where he threw for only 33 yards. The Eagles had only 99 yards overall. But then in the rain, in the conditions, play after play, Jake Elliott hitting a 59-yard field goal to tie and send it to overtime. He's never missed a game-tying or go-ahead field goal in the final 2 minutes of regulation or OT, by the way, 8 of 8. They trailed at halftime the last 4 games. They've rallied back to win them all. The defense was on the field for 92 plays in that contest. And my hunch is San Fran's going to remember the playoff game that they lost to Philadelphia when they didn't have a quarterback, and the Eagles did. A blowout in favor of Philly. Now San Fran gets a chance for meaningful playoff revenge. Worth noting for Philly, a couple key injuries. Lane Johnson, the right tackle stud, inactive with a groin injury last night. And Fletcher Cox also suffered a groin injury in that ballgame. Those both potentially impact injuries for their game against San Francisco.
469-470 up next. Cleveland at LA. We're talking the Browns and the Rams here. Teddy, 39.5 being the total. Rams -4 in the hook. There is a couple global books, prominent books showing -5 here. That's the Rams as the home favorite. Looking good last week, back at home, hosting the Browns, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, again, look at the look headline here. Rams pick 'em against the Browns. All right. Pick 'em. I was with DTR at QB for Cleveland. Total 38.5. My power rating after last night's games were 4. Markets open 4.5, 38.5. Now we're seeing 5s out there, 39.5. This total's not going up, I don't think. The side may still go up. Cleveland's got an injury problem that's very real. They got absolutely destroyed with injuries yesterday. You know, Amari Cooper got hurt. Jordan Elliott got hurt. DTR got hurt. Myles Garrett left the game with left the field with a sling on his shoulder and an MRI scheduled for today. Garrett's quote, felt like we didn't dominate up front the way we usually have. I felt like there's a little bit of leakiness in our run game. There's some talk that Joe Flacco, recently signed Joe Flacco, could be the QB for the Browns this week. I don't know if that's real or not, but that was something that was being bandied about last night. But check that Cleveland injury report. You know, even at 4.5, I thought about emergency betting alert this from a line that was pick 'em going into the weekend. But I'm not convinced it goes a whole lot higher. It could go up to 6. And if you want the Rams, not going to hurt you to bet it sooner rather than later. Obviously, LA looked pretty darn good yesterday. 228 rushing yards. Kyron Williams' return made it different. You know, Royce Freeman had a big game. Stafford with 4 TD passes. You know, offense 6.9 yards per play gain. Defense allowed only 4.6. Although I read you that Arizona quote before. I want to read it again here. When it comes to LA, not to overreact to the Rams, Gannon said, we didn't match their level of effort or enthusiasm, you know, throughout the game. It really wasn't competitive in my mind, and Arizona's had those games at home. So before we bump up LA too high, let's remember that was as much a no-show for Arizona as the other factor. That said, the rebuilding Rams this year are not rebuilding. They're in position, you know, they're very much in position to compete for a playoff spot. And Cleveland has a better record of these two teams right now, but their injury report is pretty ugly.
Joe Flacco, wow. We'll see if that.
Can you imagine?
I as a bettor, I mean, I hope it happens. I know what side I'll be on, but
well, maybe we should bet the Rams now. Exactly.
There is still a -4.5 out there as Rob chimes in the live chat. Flacco had nothing left with the Jets. We'll see if he actually gets another chance here, guys. But
Flacco had nothing left 4 stops ago. I think he just interviews well. I mean, it's
man, if he's taking NFL snaps, that would be something, Teddy. I like the breakdown, man. We got Sunday night here up next, Teddy. Kansas City and Green Bay. Sunday nighter for this week, -6 in the hook across the board. That is the Chiefs as the road favorite. 42 in the hook being the total. Chiefs at Packers from Lambeau Sunday night.
Look at line, KC -7, 41.5. My powering number, KC -7. The markets last night opened KC 6.5, 7 was a split line, 42. We have seen a little bit of over money, as you mentioned, there are some 42.5s popping, and the little bit of Packers money. Green Bay has certainly played much better the last 2 weeks than they have at any point this season. Kansas City, I did a rant about the Kansas City receiving core and the makeup of the Kansas City roster in my What Bettors Learn segment on WagerTalk today, each and every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern, right here on WagerTalk YouTube channel. And I talked about how the Chiefs receiving core wasn't that bad and they'd be fine and everything's going to be okay with Kansas City when it comes to their receivers. And they had to make choices as to where they're going to spend money after you pay Mahomes. And the defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl even if the receiving core stinks. But my point being was that the receiving core will be fine. What happened with Kansas City last week? They were down 14-0 against the Raiders. Raiders punched them right in the mouth. And the rest of the way, KC dropped only one pass, didn't have any fumbles, didn't have any interceptions. The mistakes that they weren't making. Defensive tackle Chris Jones. We're so used to seeing Pat score 30 points in a game. We've been spoiled with that as a team. Might not have started that way this season, the way we wanted it to start, but as this offense continues to play, they're going to continue to get better. We're going to get back in that rhythm of Pat scoring 30. KC, they've had 11 consecutive opponents at 24 points or less. Completely shut down the Raiders in the second half of that ballgame. That defense is pretty dominant right now. Green Bay, again, Jordan Love's last 2 games better than anything he's played before. And we thought Love might get better as the season has progressed. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, better than 8 yards per attempt in both games. 3 of his last 4 games, he's better than 8 yards per attempt. I think he notched that only once over the first half of the season. Rashawn Gary, who was hurt, now he's back and impacting games. Huge defensive showing, 4 sacks the last 2 games. You worry about this in that 6.5, 7 point spread range. The kicker, Anders Carlson, has missed an extra point in 3 straight games. It's worth noting, after Kansas City, 4 of their last 5 opponents currently have losing records. Only the Vikings above 500. So there could be room for Green Bay, even if they don't win this game, to make some sort of a late season push.
Last game for week 13 will be the Monday nighter, guys. Cincinnati at Jacksonville. Feel free to fire away any questions in the live chat. We'll answer them here at the end. As Teddy talked about earlier, we do have a bunch of teams on the bye, so a little extra time this week. And feel free to comment below if you're watching on replay. Any questions, we'll answer them next week. We'll also be in there typing away throughout the week, guys. Love the comments, and please smash that like button. But last game here, Monday night, Teddy, December 4th. Cincinnati Bengals, Jacksonville Jaguars. Another one, I believe, with some movement here, is the Jags now laying 8, as high as 8.5, 39 being the total. Another injury at the quarterback position for Cincinnati. What are we thinking here? Bengals at Jaguars.
Look at line, Jaguars -7, 40.5 the total. My powering number, Jaguars -7. The markets were 8 last night, 8 and 41, and we've seen a ton of under money. Down to 8 and 39 this morning. So the under money has come in there. We talked about this with Jake Browning last week. In college, he was elite against bad defenses and awful against good ones. And I talked about cashing a handful of bets, fading Browning versus a good defense. So what happened against Pittsburgh? Well, they didn't have any running game. And it was a bizarre. They gave up on the run very, very early in that game. Joe Mixon, 8 of 16, and that was it for the backs. They only had 10 first downs, none via the run. They got outgained by 200 yards by a Steelers team that hadn't gained 400 yards in the last 58 games. Zach Taylor, head coach, after the game. This has nothing to do with Joe Mixon in terms of the running game, giving up on the run. That's the entirety of the unit coming together, so I don't make this about one person. It's not like there were some missed opportunities there from what I could see. So he's like, we give up on the run game because we can't run. Worth noting, they didn't have any run defense yesterday against Pittsburgh either. They allowed 5 yards per carry, 150 yards on the ground. Taylor's preaching the preach, quote, I think we have a really good football team, we just got to find a way to get wins here. He kind of said the same thing last week. That was not an impressive performance, not a confidence-inspiring performance for Cincinnati yesterday, even though the final score was relatively close. Huge win for the Jags yesterday, a team that had owned them, Now they're in control of their division. You know, they avenged a 3-touchdown loss to the Texans at home earlier this season. 6-0 away from home, including 2 wins from London. Doug Peterson, our guys are learning how to finish. I'm really proud of our guys for the way they hung in today. They didn't learn how to finish. Houston missed a field goal at the end of the game. Worth noting, the left tackle, Cam Robinson, left with a knee injury at the end of the first quarter, and then Doug Peterson made the brilliant decision to go for it with 1 second left in the half, and Etienne got stuffed, which cost him at least 3 points. You know, Trevor Lawrence, for us to be able to continue and control our own destiny is up to us and how we play. If we keep winning, we don't have anything to worry about. We're going to find ourselves in a good spot. In that sense, yesterday's game, it was a huge game. Monday Night Football at home for Jacksonville is a huge game too. Laying more than a touchdown, a little bit pricey for this better, even against a Cincinnati team that clearly has some issues right now. But, I mean, again, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jags kill them. But Jacksonville's not really built to kill teams. They tend to win closer games. And the offense still spits and fits. And you don't see that offense clicking for 4 quarters. Defensively, they remain solid. But defensively, the pass defense continues to struggle. But I don't know. That's something that Cincinnati is primed to exploit. I'm talking all over the place on this game. Clearly, I have no idea how I'm going to bet this game for next Monday night. We'll think about it for a few days. Luckily, we have a week to do so between now and Monday Night Football next week.
We got some time for sure, Teddy. A couple questions here, guys, from Steven in the chat, in the comments from last week. Opening line report content. He suggests adding survivor content. A lot of the audience plays in these pools. Could you approach it the same way? And also look for future values and spreads on future games. Teddy, any interest in adding survivor content to the opening line report? And do you play survivor?
So it's a great suggestion. I don't really play survivor, so that's why I don't do it. I appreciate the comment. And I think I answered back. This is a packed show. All right. I just, I'm trying to get as much information as I can out to you guys in a relatively short amount of time. And when we start talking survivor strategies at the end of the show, or, because we'd have to do that after we went through all the games, that takes away the Q&A on the weeks that we have it. And I like the Q&A, and I think you guys do too. So a great suggestion, but I'm not going to use it.
Sure. Hey, yeah, I appreciate the suggestions. It's just, the opening line report, it's one of the more successful shows on the YouTube channel. It's been going for many years now. And I'm of the camp, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But do like the suggestion. Thanks for commenting in here.
Very much so.
Another question here from Khalid saying he always plays 6-point teasers. He says he's 90% wins. Any suggestion on playing teasers here, Teddy? Are you a big fan of playing teasers?
So I don't play a ton of teasers because the market, look, what's happened with teasers, literally 20 years ago, you would get a 2-team 6-point NFL teaser in Las Vegas at even money, plus 100. That went to minus 110. That went to minus 120. Now that's at minus 130. As your standard line, 6-point 2-team teaser. We've seen 30 points worth of juice. Their books are at minus 140 now. But the prevailing number is 30 cents worth of juice on it right now. When I play teasers, it's always 100% of the time a Wong teaser. Okay. I'm always capturing these 4 numbers, 3, 4, 6, and 7. I'm taking the big dogs down. Sorry, the big favorites down, and I'm taking the short dogs up. And when you're capturing the 3, 4, 6, and 7, you have positive expectation wagers. You're hitting 90% with your teasers, man. Document and then let us know who you got. That's a hell of a run. Hard to keep it at that level long term.
Yeah, fire away what teasers you're betting for next week. Interested in it as we got Amari asking, question for Teddy. I have the Jags to win the division title. Is it time to switch the pick to the Texans? I do believe he typed this before this past week's game. But Teddy, any opinion here on who wins with the AFC South?
So I too have the Jags to win the title. It's an interesting question. Today might be the day, actually, now that Houston's lost, if you want the Texans, today's the day to bet the Texans, not yesterday. And then in theory you can lock in a profit. But I'm just holding my Jacksonville to win the division. I like the bet. I liked it when I made it. I've liked it throughout. And one thing I never look to do is to turn a winning bet into a push because I see something else. I like the Jags to win the division. I'm going to hold that bet. If week 18 I need to hedge something, we'll worry about it then. But I'm not going to make the Houston. If you're going to make the Houston bet, today's the day to do it. It's not a bet I'm going to make right now.
E-Train asking, how many sportsbooks accounts should I have? Which ones are the best in your opinion? Teddy was in there typing away with his answer. And Teddy, I got to say, I have a little bit of disagreement with you, only because you said, if you have one, get two, which I agree with. But you also said, if you have five, get six, six, get seven. At some point, I think there's almost too many sports books where it takes you too much time and you spread out too thin. I would say, if you're, just kind of betting on the weekends and football type guy, 2 or 3 is probably fine. But Teddy, you think people should even get 5, 6, 7, huh?
My advice to anyone in any state who is betting on sports is to have a sports book, have the app funded for every single legal sports book in your state. If you have a $100 bankroll, open 5 $20 accounts. If you have a $1,000 bankroll and there's 11 books in your state, open 11 $90 accounts. When you have all the books, or as many as you can, I think I have them all in Vegas. There might be 1 or 2 I don't know, but Vegas obviously has a shit ton more than your average state. The goal is win games by a half point, don't lose games by a half point. And when you have every sports book, when you have all of those apps, you don't need to bet it all the time. You don't need to even go and check most of them. But hey, I'm shopping around. I'm looking for a 3.5 right now. Who's got the 3.5? When you have every book, you get that 3.5. Even if there's only 1 or 2 out there on the whole screen, you get that. And that's why I recommend as many accounts as you can open. Doesn't hurt.
Also add on, make sure to check out, guys, a lot of these sports books giving out free plays, bonuses. Take advantage of that as well and try to deposit as much as possible. If you deposit 100 and you get 100, take advantage of that. That's one thing that I would throw out there as well, Teddy. What time do the lines come out? This one from Straight 8 here. What site do you use to look at all the books opening lines? Teddy, I know there's look ahead lines, but what would you say in terms of what time the lines come out?
The lines are available pretty much all week. But on Sundays, we see the NFL markets for the following week. Books are posting throughout the, we call them the afternoon games here in Vegas. So the 4 o'clock starts. You'll start to see the markets begin their level of maturity during the 4 o'clock games. Certainly by the time the late games are over, every book's posted everything and they're jumping around. So the answer is Sunday afternoons while the games are still going. The markets are jumping. What was the second part of that question? Or was there another question? I don't know. Yeah, the answer is Sunday afternoons. Yeah.
Okay. I got Rob asking a question in the live chat. This is a pretty good one. Teddy, is it a good strategy to take both team totals if you like the game total? So if you like it over, what about taking both team totals to the over, same way towards the under? Any suggestion there?
So why make additional bets? If you like the over, you can bet the over. If you want the team total over and the game doesn't go over, the 2 team totals over and the game doesn't go over, that means you're likely to push on your team total wagers at best. You see what I'm saying? 1 over, yep. 1 under. If the game's not going over, it's because one of the 2 teams didn't get to their team total. Team totals tend to have higher juice than regular totals. That's a prop bet. So the better bet is full game over. And then if there's one of the 2 team totals you like, that's the team total you go with. That's my take. It's not a disaster if you bet both teams totals over, but it's not the way I would bet it.
Fair enough, Teddy. Like it, man. Good breakdown overall. Guys, thanks for chiming in. Smash that like button if you're liking the content. And remember to check out Teddy Covers here, guys. One of the hottest handicappers at WagerTalk. If you look and see, hot streaks, Teddy, 11-3 the last 7 days. Teddy, you've been off that big weekend, man. I know we answered a bunch of questions, hit all the opening lines here, but did you want to throw out anything else before we shut this down?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a 5% big ticket play already posted for NFL on Sunday. I'd get that now if I was you. 8-1 the last 3 days, 22-5, counting every play in every sport since November 15th. I had a 2-0 NFL Sunday yesterday, an 80% run over the last 2 weeks. Get everything that you like over at WagerTalk.com right now. Thanks for watching. Appreciate all the comments and questions, and good luck this week.
Absolutely, guys. And lastly, here with Teddy covers all sports. Red hot, 8-1, 89% the last 3 days, 22-5, up over 80% since November 15th. 5% big ticket plays. He's got one up, like you just talked about, 69-40, 63% long term. That's since 2021. Hey, if you're an NBA bettor, on fire as well. 17-2, Teddy. Man, seeing it well in the association.
The irony is I'm mad because I should have played more than I played in the NBA. If I was playing my short list, my free plays are 6-0 the last 6. I mean, I've been seeing the NBA pretty clearly the last couple of weeks. Hopefully it'll continue tonight.
Check out the free plays as well, guys. WagerTalk.com. For Teddy Covers, I am Drew Martin. We got Dan Alexander in the producer's role behind the scenes doing a great job. Smash that like button, guys. Comment below. All is welcome. Teddy Covers, Drew Martin checking out. We'll be back next Monday. Come back and join us. Until then, cash those tickets. Thanks for